just get into like the Holy Paladin situation. Yeah, because I scrolled like a maniac to find it here on the patch notes, and I know you did a lot of Mythic Plus on the Holy Paladin.
Prior to,
let's put some context here. I love playing Holy Paladin in BFA. That was like the glimmer time, and I feel like that was one of the best. For me, that was like the only time I really enjoyed playing like a melee healer, like up in your face. After that, I feel they just went down and down and down, right? Now we get into a rework, because it was shit, basically, more or less. You ranked it pretty high because you have some weird fetish about Holy Paladin.
I like pain.
Yeah, you like pain. That's but the general consensus was, and I felt the same way for a long time. They didn't have to like give me all of that shit before. It was pretty shit. Now we are here with the Paladin, the Holy Paladin rework. I'm just going to here. Are we going to go first to the spec and go, because there's some changes to the hero talents as well? To the spec?
The hero talents are, I don't know, I don't remember the exact each one, but some of them are really funny, and I feel like
we'll get the funny part after. So let's start it off.
Let's look at the thing.
With the spec. Okay, so we have a new talent, Extrication. Word of Glory and Light of Dawn gain up to 30% additional chance to critically strike based on their target's current health. Lower health targets are more likely to be critically struck. I remember playing Holy Paladin in arenas back in Cataclysm and MOP, and crit strike was the biggest thing you could have.
I think it's still the
thing?
Because it's baked into Holy Shock, I feel. I don't know how much.
Because of Holy Shock, but now it appears to the other side. So this is, I think this is pretty good if they're going to go into that same round, because I feel traditionally, shut up sound, traditionally Holy Paladin was evolving around critical strike. Adding this value to things like Word of Glory and Light of Dawn is a plus. So I see.
Well, first of all, we have to say that I think pretty much everybody agrees with this, that the spenders for Holy Paladin were pretty poop for 2 years right now.
More.
Except essentially Word of Glory and everything like that. And this is a very welcome change. Once again, these are all numbers. I haven't actually personally played with it, but as far as I have heard, this is very good in terms of numbers as well. And I have seen people like explode with Holy Paladin, which is great. And I think a lot of the good changes for Holy Paladin are coming essentially to how you will actually play with it. The talents are good as well. I'm not sure if this is the final version of the Holy Paladin.
There never is. We'll probably have some more updates for this for sure up until the release, or probably even like up until Season 1 starts. But let's check out the second new talent. Liberation. Word of Glory and Light of Dawn have a chance equal to your haste to reduce the cost of your next Holy Light, Crusader Strike, or Judgment. Reduce the cost. Is this the mana cost?
The mana cost, yes. I cannot really speak too much to it. I know that when I played it, because you were there as well.
Was it mana hungry?
I was so out of mana.
Right. Okay.
So
this goes back into that whole mana management thing.
That was problematic, and I think this might have something to do with the fact that they removed Daybreak. I think it was called Daybreak. That also returns some mana when it consumed Glimmers. So because we lost that, I think this is part of the reason why we're getting some mana management back.
All right, cool. Anytime you get some sort of mechanic that involves you actively playing, so these are spells that you will actively use, and those have like a beneficial return mana component. It's great. Well, it's not return mana, but it's basically return mana because the cost of your other stuff will be
mana management.
A lot lower. Yeah. All right. Another new talent. Truth Prevails. Judgment heals you, and its mana cost is reduced by 30%. 50% of overhealing from this effect is transferred onto 2 allies within 40 yards. Okay, so how much healing would the Judgment thing do? I remember that.
Does it have a scaling?
That's a good question.
I mean, it's all up to how...
I never felt Judgment was super important for healers. It was part of the rotation, but I feel like there was that talent that you would debuff with Judgment and people would heal off of that debuff.
Judgment of Light?
I think Judgment of Light was called. That was very huge for tanks, but now...
I think you still use it in Dragonflight, if I'm not mistaken, but either way, you're always going to be using Judgment to generate Holy Power, which is still a thing, unfortunately, but it's a pretty important ability that you're probably going to be using almost always, plus it's ranged. So the fact that it also heals you, I feel like this is kind of how Leech is for healers, where you always heal yourself a little bit, so you can not worry about yourself a little bit more a little, so you don't have to worry about yourself as much as you have to worry about everybody else.
So I think like it heals you. So the minute you throw it, now it heals you. That's new.
Yeah.
It never did that.
Yeah,
you need to have the Judgment of Light thing.
It would
melee
debuff the target, I think.
Yeah.
I think
So and also like the cost is reduced by mana. But this is the second part is more interesting for me because like the overhealing from that. So depending on how is the amount that Judgment will heal you, this will have or not have value at all. Because 50% of overhealing means they would expect a lot of overhealing for this to be, because what they want to do is the overhealing side of it, they want to like make it cleave to like two more people.
So I don't know if they expect overhealing as much as overhealing is just going to happen always because you're...
Well, yeah, it is
if you're
constant.
healing yourself, you're always going to be safer, and you're still a paladin as much as people might not admit it. You're wearing plate, you have a lot of HP, a lot of armor, you're probably going to take less damage than other people, although you're not going to move out of it that much. But anyway, it's likely that you're going to be safe a lot of the time. Your defensive cooldowns are good. So it's still going to overheal because you're going to be full HP more. So might as well do something with that overheal so it doesn't feel like a waste.
I get that. Overheal is always going to be a thing, not saying that, just like how much of this
that is a good
would
question.
be overheal, because it has to be some sort of impactful heal on you. Again, this is the heal on you, and 50% of that overhealing will be transferred.
I wonder if it scales with damage or it's just flat.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know the insides of it, but at least on the basis of it, it looks pretty good. Yeah. Okay, Glistening Radiance has been redesigned. Spending Holy Power has a 25% chance to trigger Saved by the Light Absorb effect at 30% effectiveness without activating its cooldown. Pretty cool. This is like semi-safety net situation here.
If it just adds little absorbs every now and again, I think it overall contributes
but it's passive.
to...
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, as long as it doesn't like really like make you go into that to just get a small benefit. I always feel like passive things should give like small rewards.
Yeah.
Like nothing huge. So I feel that's
the thing. That's what will make it a little bit hard to judge how good it is, because we won't know until we see like some DPS meter or HPS meter in this sense.
All right, let's see. Light's Protection has been redesigned. Allies with Beacon of Light receive 5% less damage. Really cool. This was so Beacon of Light. This was the thing you would put on one party member and on the other party member, and you would would heal, they would transfer. Right? I remember. But there was also a talent where which was it? The one that you would take instead of any beacon, and you would activate it, and
Beacon of Virtue. That I think it applies to that as well.
If it applies to that, that would be
I think this once again. I think this is also because we've lost Glimmer, and Glimmer also added damage reduction, and we've lost all of the interactions that we had with Glimmer, so they're kind of baking them into other talents. And I feel like it makes a little bit more sense with Beacon because it's more iconic.
For sure, but I didn't see the announcement here, but it's huge. We don't have Glimmer anymore, dude. Like we kind of like went through it. That Holy Paladins don't use Glimmer of Light anymore.
They've put it at the end of the patch notes for Holy Paladin. But yeah, Glimmer has gone. Well, I don't think Glimmer would have had a future, because every time Glimmer was really it was just nerfed. It was constantly being nerfed ever since it was introduced. It was broken back in BFA when it became a Nazarite trait, and it was just constantly always nerfed. I don't know if it just scaled way too highly with the Paladin playstyle. It promoted a playstyle that was very unpleasant for a lot of people. You just had to be always in melee, always Crusader striking, always Holy Shocking, and it was narrowing down the design and philosophy of Holy Paladin to be just that. And I think it was making it hard for them to design Holy Paladin to also add, the caster part of it, and maybe more interactions with Infusion of Light and things like that, because Glimmer was such an important part of your kit. So maybe it's for the best. I mean, I liked Glimmer too, but if they cannot make it work after like 3 expansions, then maybe it's time to go.
just drop it already. I agree. Although I loved Glimmer. I loved it in BFA. When they introduced that, I felt like,
it was so
my
stupid.
God.
Oh, it was so fun.
It was broken, but it was hella fun to play. All right, let's see on the other redesign. Overflowing Light has been redesigned. 15% of Holy Shock's overhealing is converted into an Absorb Shield. Again with the Absorb. I'm getting some Wrath of the Lich King Discipline vibes here. Ooh. The shield amount cannot exceed 10% of your max health. Okay, so it's small. So we have one Absorb from the previous redesign, and we have another Absorb here.
It's also
interesting.
I'm not a main healer, though I did heal Mythic Vault for the first time ever, so I cannot really speak too much about this concept. But as my short experience as a healer, I didn't particularly like overhealing, and I never liked mechanics revolving around overhealing because you don't want to.
We're always gonna have overhealing.
Yeah, but then this talent feels like you're not playing as efficient as possible, so we're just gonna give you an out. This is what these types of mechanics feel like.
I feel like this is like a noob protection.
Maybe it's no matter what you do, if you play perfectly, you still have a lot of overhealing, so might as well give value to it. Or it could be that we just want to fix bad play. I mean, this is what it sounds like. We still have to test it and see like proper tuning, but that's how I see overhealing. So I don't know, because it's 15% of overhealing. Like usually standard overhealing is around 10 to 30%.
And this goes back to the first part. It's like, dude, how much overhealing would that judgment thing do in order to have this value? Now we're looking at 50% overhealing. So they are expecting a lot of overhealing from Holy Paladins, I feel. We'll see how that turns out and how it turns out. So far on Mythic Plus, you cannot really tell anything. Another redesign, Rising Sunlight. This has been redesigned. After casting Avenging Wrath, your next 2 Holy Shocks cast 2 additional times. Oh my god, this would have been so clever.
Yeah, but it was because this was the capstone for Daybreak that would consume the Glimmer, and then you would Divine Toll, and your Divine Tolls would hit very hard. Yeah. And because we lost that interactions, they once again baked it into, I guess, Avenging Wrath now. And
so it's
on Divine Toll still.
Yeah, Divine. After casting Divine Toll, your next 2 Holy Shocks cast 2 additional times. So yeah, you basically get like a lot of Holy Shocks all around. It's pretty cool, basically. And again, I'm sad to see Glimmer go, but yeah. Glorious Dawn has been redesigned. Holy Shock has a 12% chance to refund a charge when cast, and its healing is increased by 10%. I cannot remember what the first version for this was.
I don't remember.
Probably in terms of like the numbers, because this sounds very familiar. So
this is a new interactions. I don't think Holy Shock had any RNG tied to its refunding a charge. I don't think that was a thing, although I might be just a bad
it's good.
Paladin.
It's good. Like, and this was like you played a lot, so I was about to throw this question. Like after this, we have Glimmer of Light gone, Daybreak gone. Can we hope for 2 types of viable playstyles for Holy Paladin? Can we have the melee Holy Paladin, but can we also go for the
the problem with the previous design, and something that even though I liked it because it was crazy, but it was definitely a problem, was that they tried to make both work and you had to play both, and it was very bad.
Oh no, that was stupid. No.
Because you had to play, you have to consume your infusions of light, but also maintain Glimmer, and also had about 6 healing cooldowns that you had to go through. It was a lot. So we've lost a bunch of that, and we're kind of changing how since you don't have Glimmer anymore, but Holy Shock is also strong. It depends. It depends on how they're shifting away or shifting the throughput of certain spenders, because I would love to have that dichotomy of caster or melee, which I think Mistweaver tried to accomplish and kind of realized throughout Dragonflight. I think in raids you would play more caster heavy, while in Mythic Plus you'd play a more melee heavy, and I think that being able to choose between the two is important. It's not quite there with Mistweaver, but it's much further ahead than it is for Holy Paladin, so maybe there's hope.
But is it like, because you mentioned the Mistweaver situation. Do you think it's much more difficult for them to actually make this happen, as opposed to, because for DPS you can have
it's harder for Holy Paladin, I feel, because the mastery still is range dependent, so you kind of have to be close to melee.
Why the fuck they didn't change the mastery? Like just make it different? Because I remember in that thing with the range shit, that's been like.
I mean, wait a minute, is it still the same? I don't remember. If it's maybe they've changed it, but either way, you have like a whole Light of Dawn, which is kind of like a melee ability. It shoots in the cone in front of you, so even that is it's not as reliable as, let's say, Serenity for Holy Priest.
Yeah, it's not for sure. Okay, it may be a problem of them actually making it happen, although I do feel that's the play. If they're gonna do like proper changes, this has to be the play, because the only time I loved playing Holy Paladin melee was in BFA with Glimmer. Glimmer is gone, and I don't know. I'm gonna give it a try, see how it works, and if it's like it's feeling good.
You know what has to change? I think what has to change for that to become a reality is that we need to go away from Holy Power. because I think Crusader Strike and Holy Shock is such a more effective way to building Holy Power than anything else that you're probably never gonna play it even if it's wrong. Because we have a talent called, I think, Tower of Radiance or whatever. When you cast Holy Light or Flash of Light, you generate 1 Holy Power. That's not enough considering that Holy Shock is instant and those are hard casts which imply a whole different level of difficulty into playing. Even if they generated 2 Holy Power, I think might still not see it, although that it would be a start to see a caster focused. Imagine if Holy Light generated 3 Holy Powers, Holy Light, Word of Glory, Holy Light, Word of Glory. That would be an interesting way of playing Holy Paladin, I feel, but obviously it can be, better.
At the end of the day, if this is going to happen, one thing they need to address is the actual mastery.
I think to be able to bring back Caster Holy Paladin, you would have to get rid of Glimmer. Because Glimmer was way too efficient for what it was doing, and in the same vein as, generating Holy Power in melee. So I don't know if we're gonna have fully Caster Holy Paladin in the War Within, but if we're ever going to have it, we're already working towards getting it. Would be nice to not have to wait 2 expansions for it, but who knows? I think that's what we're essentially gonna... You want your Ashen Hollow back. You're not gonna get your Ashen Hollow back, man. Listen,
Ashen Hollow was broken as fuck. It was fun. It was, definitely rewarding, but I don't know, man. I loved playing Holy Paladin back in Kata and MOP. It was a very different playstyle back then because it was like the more range, but you still had the damage. You used Denounce a lot to negate critical strikes from people and all of that. And the procs, for faster Holy Lights and faster shocks and having there was the Sacred Shield back in the day. I loved that playstyle. It was basically a very, very different from what this was, what Holy Priest was, what Bristol Druid. It had its own thing. Mm-hmm. And then I felt the same way again back in BFA when they introduced Glimmer. I felt like that was the play, and it was finally, okay, this is Plate Warrior, Warrior, Holy, whatever, get into the midst of it and duking it out while healing everybody else. Then they just fucked up. I don't know what the best route is, to be honest, but I would love for them to at least give a valuable option and not mix them all in between, both melee and range.
As far as I've heard from main Mistweavers, whenever they added the option to play a more caster heavy, a lot of Mistweavers like that. I don't think I've heard a single Mistweaver saying, no, I don't like it being forced into caster. I don't think I've heard that. So I don't think a Holy Paladin would be any different. I think a lot of people would still like to be able to choose between being more melee focused or being more caster focused.
Well, people love options, right? And it's an RPG. Give me options, customizability, because that's French. And if you don't know French,
I don't know.
you're gonna learn it.
You might have said croissant and would have been the same thing for me.